Hello, hello, BSN for Pros. Welcome to another BSN Live webcast. Just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a member in this group. And if you're not a member of BSN for Pros, you need to find this group. We're a Facebook community, Facebook mastermind group. Just go ahead on Facebook, write in BSN for Pros, and you will find the page. So I wanted to share with you guys people that are joining the group. I throw out a little shout out. I throw a little post and hey, if you want to join me on the webcast, you're welcome to join. It's an open invitation for the members. And I have a new member that wanted to join and share her event and what's happening in Las Vegas. Tonya D. Hopefully I said that right.
You made it French. That's so
I don't know. We were just talking about like I'm that guy when we get the names. I don't know. There's something that happens. Good morning, Tonya. How are you?
Good morning, Grand Rising. Thank you for having me. It's Tonya D, but I love the Tonya D, so that works. I'm actually a Louisiana girl, so there is a reference there, so I accept that.
Yeah. So Tonya, she's a new member to the group. Who invited you to the group? Tell us, because we want to give a shout out to that person that invited you.
So I have to give a shout out to Michelle Cintron, aka Mystic Topaz. She's the sound healer, and she's based right here in Vegas, and I love her. So she referred me to the group, told me to get connected, the feet on the ground, and so that was your group was the first group she recommended.
Awesome. I love Michelle. She is awesome. She's a beautiful energy. Every time she was actually my first real guest on BSN for Pros Live. So I want to have her back.
Okay.
So Michelle, if you're watching, you need to come back and reschedule so we can do a chat with you, because she has a lot of great things to say about energy, about the vibration, about like she does the sound. We talk about the hypnosis, and we were just talking about that. And I know you're involved in that a little bit. Tell us about that, because I know that's kind of your field.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I have a sales background. I started traditionally in customer service, ended up in sales through education, and kind of progressed through there. But what I found most fascinating were the techniques that were being taught to us in order to perform these different jobs. I was more fascinated in they're kind of like mind control. And so that started for me about 20 years ago. I'm 44 now. So this was in my early 20s. And so I remember just sitting at work, like every time we turn around, we're having these meetings. Everything's about control. Everything's about motivation. And so emotional intelligence was something that came on my grid back in the early, say 2005, 2008, when it was really starting to gain kind of that momentum in corporate. And so that was where I really started to pay attention, but it resonated for me truly to my emotional intelligence, not the emotional intelligence to sell something. It was creating something deeper within me to say, hey, you need to look at something different. And so that's what I began to do, is just kind of pull at those strings. So NLP, emotional intelligence, quantum learning, those types of things, metaphysical things, anything that can be quantified normally with data, I'm drawn to, but it's the magical part of it that still makes me go, I need to know what the mind is capable of. So yeah, it's a combination of all of that.
That's crazy. I come from a sales background too, and before this conversation, we're talking about like the hypnosis and the mind control and and a lot of these sales techniques come from they use those strategies in sales. Give us an example of like what's used in just tell us like what doesn't have to be about sales, but what's something that you notice that you're like, hey, this is what they're using, and maybe someone can wake up and go, oh, like they're doing that.
Well, so I'll use education, right? I'm all for pulling the wool back. So when you use a higher education and you think of the educations that charge you 55, 60,000 for this 4-year program, right? And when you're in that program, you're meeting with the counselor. The counselor is all about first understanding your whys. Understanding your whys are super important for your success. However, there's such a manipulation that's used because those whys are brought back to remind you when you're ready to drop the course, but we want to remind you why you wanted to finish. There's a financial responsibility that they're trying to hold on to, that they want to make sure that you complete it so that you can also complete your financial obligation. So I got the properties of it. It made sense for me. I'm just, why is it packaged this way? So I begin to have very authentic conversations with my students. Here is what financial aid can do. Here's how you use it as a single parent. Here's how you're able to use these different areas so that you are able to stay within the compliance of what FAFSA would say. But I talk to women and I was nurses, I enrolled nurses. It was a program that I enrolled for. And I was really, really authentic in saying, here's what you need to do in order to be careful. My hand got popped. I actually lost my job. I can't believe I'm even saying this. I lost my job. This is about 12 years ago. And I lost my job because it was considered unethical. And I was like, well, what's considered unethical? Telling people how they're supposed to actually use their resources so that they don't have the resources come back to bite them. We're giving them the mind control so that they can get in it, but you're not giving them the control to free themselves so that they can get out of it. And so I struggled with that for a very, very long time because that mind control is how I can get an interview, get past these things in order to say who I am and then still perform the job. But I also know that there's an authenticity that would be missing because if it wasn't something that I was really desiring to do, now I'm just fitting the norm. So that's, how it impacted me and how I, used it throughout. But that was how I would explain kind of the scenario.
Yeah, I can totally relate with you with that. There's I've been in sales for 20 years, and you get to a point where it's not necessarily about making the sale, but it's about being authentic. And then you get to a point where you're like, it's what's your purpose? Like, why, what are we doing here? And you just want this person to like make the best decision with the best information, so you can have a conscience. Because I think you have a conscience. You're like, I don't want to screw this person over. And like 10 years from now, like this person's gonna like be, whatever. It doesn't have to be 10 years, but they're
anything. It could be in 2 months.
Yeah.
The fact that you talked them into signing something they really weren't ready to do. People need to be encouraged. They don't necessarily need to be pushed off the cliff, right? So it's more so the steps where they'll jump. The only way you'll get off the cliff is to jump. You can either jump or I can push you. Most people will choose to jump.
Yeah, and I think what happens is we as because you're teaching people about that, and when people are aware of those those techniques, you're aware, like your mind opens up, and then I think you become bolder, right? You're teaching people to be like self-empowered in a way where they can avoid those traps.
Yes.
All right. So tell us about the event that's coming up in the future with you, because I know you got a big event coming up. I'm looking at your event.
I do.
This is a big one. You're at the MGM, so share the audience with that.
So I have an event coming up literally 7 days from today that kicks off at the MGM Grand, and it's called Roots to Rituals. So the way that it's the wealth and empowerment, the wealth and wellness empowerment experience, and the way that you're able to get in touch with it, it's through rootstorituals.com. So that's a brand that I created literally last year that had to do with inner work. Doing your inner work is what really will bring out your divine riches. So when you go through and do your root work, that's what brings out the riches that you're able to enjoy, in this realm or in this world. So it's a lot of inside work. And so we focus this event around wealth and wellness because there is a huge there's a huge pink elephant in the room that everyone always talks about when it talks about financial stability and things that people need to be doing, things that we need. But there also tends to be a disconnect with the spiritual community of, well, why do I need it? Or money is this or money is that. So it's about being, I think, a conduit space of being able to just first get people to open their minds. And when you open your minds, you understand the programming that has been placed on you or around you. And now you're able to observe and move these things out of the way that no longer serve you. So the event is featured at the MGM. It kicks off on a Thursday, and it's pretty much wellness by day and then dancing by night. So what the rootstorituals.com website doesn't reflect is that I have a stepping event. I do Chicago stepping. And even though I'm from San Diego, California, raised in Louisiana, I do a dance from Chicago, right? So it's a partner dance, very much like if you see salsa or, different partner dances around the nation where people go to these different events to do it's like a salsa. So you'll have 3 days of dancing. So I combined my dance event with the wellness event because it's everything that made me in this now moment of my healing. So there's healing by day, dancing by night. There is a vendor's market, free meditation that's given 3 times a day. All we ask that is that people RSVP for it because there's occupancy issues that they want to make sure that being in alignment with because of COVID. So they just want to be mindful of those things. But the event kicks off. We have day passes, the full experience. They're able to just attend the free meditation, come and see what the vendors have to offer. There's just so many different avenues, and they're all paths that lead you back to you. So this event is about wealth and wellness empowerment for self. And then from there, everything else comes out of it.
I just want to say congratulations for having an event at the MGM. That is amazing. You're my first guest that I've had that had a big event, and I think that takes a lot of work. I don't even think I know it takes a lot of work. Tell me what how are you dealing with it? Like what's something, because I know people out there want to put events. They love to put an event like you're putting. What is the one thing that if someone says, "Hey, I'd like to put an event at the MGM or do an event," what's one thing that they need to know?
I would say call me, number one, and then number two, I would say yeah, it's definitely viable and feasible. One of the things that I do is I'm able to teach individuals how to do it, and then also do it for them. So the same blueprint that I have for myself, I'm willing to duplicate for someone else, and so that's what helps people be empowered. You don't always have to just pay to say, this is the only person that can do it. So I would say, get connected with me, whether it's the MGM Grand or if it's Aria, whatever. The hotels are open to these amazing partnerships. They just need to be contacted. So I have taken the time to like establish my travel agency. There's so many, little pieces in the background that I've done to this moment, right? So I didn't just say, hey, I'm going to do this event and ta-da. I have a travel agency that enabled me to be able to have the contracts properly, things that needed to move ethically, right? So I had that information that was done. And then from there, I was able to move into it. So that's why I say, if you start with me, we could get you started, and then you're able to get all those pieces that you need in place in order to do your next event as well.
Wow, I appreciate that, because we were just talking about the conversation, and I know people are always wanting to do events, and now we have someone in the group BSN for Pros that knows how to do events at the MGM. I don't know if you ask me, I wouldn't know where to start, but I know I can recommend someone that would know how to do an event. Tonya, one last thing. How do you see yourself in a couple of years, like in Las Vegas? I know you just moved here. I mean, what's that one thing that you have to get done before, like, I know for a lot of people, maybe an event would be like something like, okay, I did it. But what's the one thing where you say, hey, Ben, like, this is the one thing I need to get done? Because we want to manifest that, right? We want to put that out there. So let's put it out there big. Let's think big.
Okay, so I was not going to drop this off into your universe pothole, but I will gladly put it in there. All the more energy, the better. And so what came out of literally doing this work is I know that I'm going to be creating a 501c6 for a chamber of commerce, but it'll be around empowerment. And so we've already, secured the things that we need to secure to start that. And it's going to be growing that, because that is the 8 dimensions of wellness. So where do I see myself? I literally see myself being myself authentically every single moment, every single day, no matter how uncomfortable the truth makes me or the next person, because the lies always come back with some BS. So it's just more walking authentically in that truth and creating this chamber, because I'm a small business owner, and I love to literally get behind small businesses, open the tools and the resources to small businesses. And when you can get legislation, commerce behind that, you get your political advocates in your community behind it. We now take something from a community level and we're able to impact from a national level. And we did it from starting right here at home. So I'm in Vegas, right? My 501c6 is going to be here, based out of the state of Nevada. And even though I'm a California girl, this is my base. And knowing that I can impact social change, economical change, and political change, that's the difference between a 501c6 and a 501c3. So now I have different skin in the game. That means I am exactly what I am practicing, and I am exactly what I am preaching in real time, because I have to maintain all of these parts in order to be valid. And it's just for me. So the chamber is going to be the part that I'm going to be stepping into. And that's something that we'll be launching in the next probably 30 to 45 days, where the memberships will be there, how we're going to be able to affect the community and impact immediately. Those are the things, the big dreams. And that just came to me in the last, probably the last 5 days.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's a great idea. You're not just thinking like small, but you're thinking big and you want to make an
Hmm.
impact. So I congratulate you. Thank you for joining me in BSN
Thank
for
you.
Pros. And anyone that wants to join Tonya on her mission and her journey, make sure you send her a friend request. You say hello. You follow her on Facebook. I'm going to put the links and everything connect so you can connect with her, and I'll tag her in this video. So that way we can grow her spirit. That's what we want to do in BSN for Pros is get more people out there, more support out there in the algorithm of life. All right. Thank you, Tonya. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Gratitude.